Heyo, I'm just going to do a quick demonstration of all the different types of synthesis we've covered, because I don't understand how you're supposed to answer this question if you haven't been given an opportunity to experience all the types of synthesis in like that much time. You've been given like very little time with hearing each of these. So I'm going to try and do a little thing. Hopefully you can hear that. So first we'll do additive synthesis. Additive synthesis is where you add lots of oscillators together at different frequencies to create a new sound. So for example, if we start with this sine wave, which is just producing this frequency, and then we increase the volume of this one, we get a different sound. If we add another one, so if the oscillators that you add are multiples of the original one, so for example, this second one here is it's not 3 times, sorry. 4 times higher. And this one here, it's like 8 times higher. But basically, if you're adding harmonics, then it's going to sound nice. Well, nicer. If you detune them so that they're like all weird, then what happens is you get very inharmonic sounds. Basically, that sound a bit, not noisy, but they sound a bit like bells or what else might they sound like? Just not very natural sounds. And so that's kind of what additive synthesis sounds like. Also, another thing to add is that I'm only adding sine waves right now. So all of these are only producing one harmonic, the fundamental. But you could add waves together that aren't sine waves. For example, if I made this one a square wave, if I made this one a saw wave, if I made this one a triangle wave, and if I made this one a funny looking wave, then you get other stuff. But it still sounds very inharmonious when they're all different, when they're not harmonics, and when they are harmonics, it will sound a lot better. So if I make them harmonics again, or maybe not sounding the best, but you get the idea. Still a lot more like a defined pitch rather than like a clang noise. Anyway, so let's move on to subtractive synthesis. Subtractive synthesis is where you have a sound and then you use a filter to subtract frequencies from that sound. So luckily this synth here, this synth, by the way, that I'm using is operator. It can do all sorts of stuff, but I'm just using it to explain all of them. So if we start with just a single oscillator, apologies for your ears. Also, I have no idea what the relative volumes of all the things are going to be, but hopefully it turns out okay. But anyway, let's add a filter. That sounds a lot nicer. So yeah, and then one thing that you can do with subtractive synthesis is change the frequency of the filter. So right now I'm using a cutoff filter. You can see it here. I'm using a low pass filter, so it's cutting off high frequencies. You can use other types of filters. As you can see, I'm cycling through them right now. So this is like a band pass. This is a high pass. That one is painful, and anyone who uses it needs to be talked to. And then you can also change the resonance of a filter, and this is kind of like a characteristic sound of subtractive synthesis. You can hear that amplified note there, that amplified frequency as it moves. Another fun thing you can do is like put it on an LFO And then let's give me a sec. Yeah. You can get some kind of dubstep wops, you know? But that's just me having fun and not really explaining what's going on. But anyway, that's the main sound. What you can do is do additive synthesis and then do subtractive synthesis to it, as in just add a filter to it. But when we're talking about if you're just using subtractive synthesis, you're just going to hear one oscillator and a filter of some sort. You can obviously mix and match all of these most of the time, but we're just going to talk about them on their own. So right now this is just one oscillator, one filter, and an LFO to make it wob wob wob. But if we get rid of the wob wob, then this is subtractive synthesis. Anyway, now amplitude synthesis. So amplitude synthesis is, again, we're going to start with, to make it easy, we'll start with just a sine wave. But it's too low. Cool. So as you can see, I'm starting on a C. So what we're going to do is we're going to have the amplitude of that change over time. So first we'll do it very slowly. That's not amplitude. Give me a sec. That's frequency modulation, and we'll get onto that. Okay, that's too slow. Ah, yes. Okay, cool. Okay, cool. You can see it is bouncing. I'm changing the amplitude over time. Right now it's not really doing anything. It's just making it louder and quieter. But whoopsie daisy. If we make it faster, something weird starts to happen. And you start to get, ignore what's going on over here. I don't know why this is happening. Ignore it. Only look at the big one. What's happened is we've started getting sidebands. Now I can't hold the mic and play the keyboard at the same time, but we're basically getting sidebands appearing. And if we make the higher now, so this is slow and it's just bouncing, but as soon as we increase it, it gets bigger. And then the sidebands, so basically what we're doing is we're changing the amplitude of the sine wave at an audio rate. So it might be the audio rate is just a rate that we would hear as a pitch. So anything above 20 hertz. When we do that, what actually ends up happening is that frequency gets added to and subtracted from the original frequency. So we get the sum and the difference of those. So if we had like A, which is happening like 220 hertz or whatever, and then this is happening at, we're changing that at 40 hertz, we're getting plus and minus. I'm not sure I need to explain it, but this is basically what it sounds like. It's quite a simple sound because we're not getting many harmonics, right? We've just got, well, not harmonics, sorry. We're not getting many frequencies. We're getting the original one, and then we're getting just one on either side. Now, obviously, again, this is just with a sine wave. If we were to do this with a more complex wave, maybe like a triangle wave, we would get sidebands on the side of each one of the harmonics. And then they might start messing with each other in weird ways. Also, a fun thing you might notice is that if you look at this bottom one here, the lowest one, it will go down, and then it will bounce off and come back. Very interesting. You can get all sorts of weird sounds when you get into really, really high frequency stuff. Because all of the stuff will start interacting with each other. I'm not sure how much of that you heard because of I'm not sure how loud each bit is, but the characteristic sound of is going to be, is going to be that. That's going to be the sort of characteristic sound of that. Now, FM synthesis is where it gets really weird. So I can kind of show you it the same way to begin with, which is just like, that's not that. Let's not do that. There we go. There we go. Okay, cool. So let's start with a sine wave again because it's easy. So we have our sine wave. And it's just going to go up and down. Just wiggling about. And again, if we do this faster and faster. No. Why? What happened? Right. Okay, cool. Thank you. Sorry. Right, yeah. So we're making it wiggle faster. If we make it wiggle fast enough, we get the sidebands again. Except this time, there's loads of them. We can make them go away, but basically. So now, not only do we get the sum and the difference, we get the sum. So whereas before we were adding the frequency we were modulating it at. Now we're adding every multiple of the frequency we're modulating it at. Obviously, theoretically to infinity, but as we go further out, they get quieter. And as we increase the volume of the thing that of the modulating frequency, those get extended. We hear more of them, and they start messing with each other. So again, this is quite a low audio rate. If we then increase the audio rate to be like this, now the fun thing with frequency modulation is that we can make oscillators modulate other oscillators, and this is where you get into like the real sound of FM. So this is like a crude way of showing FM. If I were to show you like it in a more normal way, so we have our original sine wave. Now let's say I was to add another sine wave that modulates that sine wave, right? Right? So we get that sort of sound. What if I were to change this to a square wave? What if I was to change the envelope on this one so that it only acted for a little bit, but then made the other, like the original sound come through? So we get a sort of like a ting sound, and then it goes back to the original sine wave. Let's make this as the triangle wave instead. Right now, you don't need to like understand everything I'm doing. You just need to, I'm just sort of doing a bit of like random sound design to show you like what FM could sound like. What if we brought this one back? That's cool. What if we did a thing? More things. We can do all sorts of things. My point is, we can change these. Point is, FM can sound like a lot of stuff, and it's kind of hard to get like a sound of FM, like a characteristic sound of FM, because there's so much stuff you can do. It's a little bit impossible. But hopefully this gives you enough of an understanding to understand how to do that question a bit more. And don't feel bad if you can't do that question, because I have no idea how Richard expects people who haven't got access to an FM synth to know what FM synthesis sounds like. But I guess you can email him about that angrily or something. I hope this was helpful and not too confusing and also not patronizing. I just kind of wanted to show you some stuff, I guess. Good luck.